This is my new Gemini Jets 1:400 scale Atlas Air Boeing 747-8F. This is my 5th 747-8 and my 4th 747-8 freighter. I now have the Cargolux 747-8, an Airbridge Cargo 747-8, a Polar Air Cargo 747-8, and now the Atlas Air Cargo 747-8 as well. This is a new line of model aircraft that Gemini Jets is producing called the Interactive series. They started to release these in 2019 and have now released 4 in total. It's currently been a year since the first of these came out, and I haven't seen many reviews about any of these aircraft, so I decided to bite the bullet, buy them, and then review them. These model aircraft have been quite popular, and most of them have sold out. In fact, the only one of these aircraft that I could find from my retailer was the Polar Air Cargo 747-8. The retailing price of which was £57, which translates to $72 for you Americans. That is a lot of money for one aircraft, but it gets even more expensive as all of the other aircraft were out of stock. And where do you buy model aircraft if they're out of stock at the retailers?
But did you check eBay?
No. No?
Now, eBay can be a modeler's paradise if you have a lot of money. The good thing about eBay is that you can find even some of the rarest models, but they will most likely cost a lot of money. To put it into context, remember that the retailing price of all of these aircraft when they first came out was about £57. My Airbridge Cargo 747-8 cost me £75, my Cargolux 747-8 cost me £80, and the Atlas Air 747-8 cost me £105. And on top of that, it was the only one available on eBay at the time. So I'm gonna warn you straight off the bat, if you want these, it's possible to get them, but they are very, very expensive. Why are they expensive? Well, these models are quote-unquote interactive. You see, when you open the box, you aren't just greeted by a model. You are also greeted by a myriad of various pieces. These interactive series aircraft allow you to have your model in 2 configurations, opened and closed. You have pieces that allow you to take out the closed doors and add in open ones, and I have to say, they look good. Yeah, I said it. Gemini Jets did a good job. But here's the thing. Good doesn't mean perfect. But before we get onto that, let's take a look at these models. So first off, let's take a look at the mold. Ignoring just the interactive feature for now, how well do these models portray a Boeing 747-8F? Well, pretty good. We can see by comparing the interactive series aircraft to the newly released Lufthansa 747-8 that these do resemble the same mold as the non-interactive series 747s. The shape of the fuselage seems to be good, the landing gear roll and have the correct proportions, but the wings appear to be a little bit too steep. And on top of that, I have had some issues with the outward engines. Now for some reason, the outward engines are quite weakly attached to the wings, and I actually had my Polar Air arrive with both broken off. In the end, I found it was actually best to purposely take off all of the outward engines and then glue them back on with better glue. Again, yes, an easy fix, but when you're paying over £100 for a model, you shouldn't have to go through this. Moving on to the interactive pieces now, and there are some issues with these as well. Overall, you get 8 pieces that go into 4 slots. There are 2 nose pieces, 2 large side door pieces, and the 4 undercarriage door pieces. Let's start with the nose pieces. The 2 pieces you get are the open and closed pieces. The closed piece includes 2 tray type slots that slide into the aircraft's nose, and the open piece has 2 pins that slot into 2 pin holes on the inside of the aircraft. I found that some of the pins are actually too large to fit all the way into the pin holes, but despite that, the open nose piece actually stays attached even with such a weak connection. The large door on the side of the aircraft has the same design as the nose piece. However, for the open configuration, instead of having the 2 pinholes, the piece has a tray type part that slides into the top of the entrance. This design is pretty robust. However, I have had some issues on some of the aircraft where the open part won't slide all the way into the aircraft. To counter this, I've actually had to sand down the ridges on the underside of the piece to allow the parts to slide all the way in. And then finally, the undercarriage pieces fit without any problems. Now, to get a wider view of what other people think about these models, I recently took to Instagram to ask you guys what you thought of these models. And it turns out that 25% of people were happy with how these models turned out. 30% of people had mixed opinions, and 40%, well, some interesting language was used, let's just say that. So what I thought I'd do is find various points made about these aircraft, elaborate on them a bit, and give my view about what I think. Now, to start with, of course, there's the price. I made some points about this at the start of the video, but it's fair to say that these are very expensive. But should they be? Now, common sense would probably tell you that these models are slightly more expensive to produce than regular models. To work this out, we can take the retailing price of the new Lufthansa 747-8, which isn't an interactive aircraft, and then take the retailing price of the interactive series aircraft. The Lufthansa's retailing price was £56.95 according to the aircraft model store, and the interactive series, $56.95. Yep, these are the exact same price. Now, it's a whole nother story about whether a 1-400 747 should even be above £50, but as I say, that is a whole nother story. I think that people get this misconception from the resale value of these aircraft. But from retailers, they're actually the same price. And now moving on to another issue, the panel gaps. Now, of course, the parts that consist of the nose pieces and the door pieces on the sides of the aircraft, they're all separate pieces. And so because of that, there's a much more noticeable panel gap in between the fuselage and the doors. However, and again, I don't know how I'm coming to Gemini Jets' defense over this, but how much better could this get? I think the open configuration adds a whole new tone of realism to a model airport. And with that, at the sacrifice of panel gaps, I actually think it's worth it. Of course, the panel gaps are annoying, but it could be a whole lot worse. And at the end of the day, there is always the option to buy one of these aircraft from either one of the older Gemini Jets releases or another manufacturer, which aren't in the interactive series mold. But these ones, I actually think they're okay. I know I've had my history of slating Gemini Jets for their bad models, but honestly, these are pretty good. Yes, I'm giving a company whose leader has openly called me a brat a good review, but hey, I strive to have a fair and just channel when it comes to reviewing aircraft. So if Gemini Jets does make a good model, I will give it a good name despite how much their management hate me for preaching the truth. This model actually has some pretty good innovation, and although it's not perfect with the panel gaps, with the wing flex, with the weak engines, it's a sign that Gemini Jets are actually headed in the right direction. Now again, we have seen in the past Gemini showing some signs of heading in the right direction before then falling flat on their face just a few months later, so I hope that this time it actually sticks. To conclude, I can see why some people think this is either a cheap money grab from Gemini Jets or just a cheap way to kind of get a head start on NG models or other companies like that. But honestly, looking at these models without any of the politics of the competition with NG models and the pressure from the community, these are actually some pretty good models. I'm much more of a fan of these when they're in the open configuration. Of course, when they are closed, of course, the non-interactive series aircraft do far better in terms of looks. But the fact we can even have an aircraft which has opening doors and all of this, it's actually a pretty cool feature, and I would love to see this be integrated into some other cargo aircraft, such as the 767, the 757, maybe even going into the military section like the C5 Galaxy. Again, we did get the open doors from some of these C-17 molds, but I don't really know why they haven't kind of innovated on that with the C5, with the A400M, but I would love to see more of this in the future. And with that, I want to thank you very much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.